going to come to you now on the consenting topic, your specialist area. Can you explain the process for getting onshore? Getting onshore and offshore consents. Is it a mission?
It is a mission, but not impossible, thankfully. The consents processes can be quite complex and therefore quite challenging to understand, particularly when you're kind of communicating with the local communities and the public and so forth. There's different regimes for onshore and offshore. When we're in the onshore environment, it's about getting planning permission. So that's a more kind of traditional approach that probably more people understand and can appreciate in terms of, if you want to build a new house, you have to go and get planning approval from your local planning authority to do that. We effectively have to do the same. It's a larger scale planning application process we go through, because these will be classed as national planning developments, because they sit within the national planning framework as seen as an important energy infrastructure to support the offshore renewables. So we'll have to go through that process, which is engagement with the local planning authority. We will have to do a number of stakeholder events and community engagement to feed it into our process and our planning application. And importantly, alongside that, we will also have to undertake environmental impact assessment. So that's a legal requirement for us to do that. And there's very kind of sort of set ways and methods by which you do it. And fundamentally, it's a decision-making process to support those that make the decisions, so the planning authority, to fully understand what the potential impacts may be of these projects, to help inform them when they're making the decisions as to whether they should grant consent or permit planning approval or not. From an offshore perspective, we sit under the Electricity Act regime, so it's a specific type of consent application that we go for called a Section 36. Which probably doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people, but if you're in this world, we talk about it all the time. But it's to do with the generation capacity of these offshore wind farms. And then supporting that will also be a marine licence. And again, the offshore consents will have to be supported by environmental impact assessment in the same way. There's a huge number of stakeholders involved that we have to engage with, both statutory, so we formally have to engage with them, plus kind of interested parties, whether that's local communities or fishers or, the Lighthouse Board Association, mariners of all kinds and shapes and forms. So it's a very robust process and a well-recognised process. But as you say, is it a mission? They're very lengthy to get consents. It takes a long time in terms of the work that we have to undertake. So, for example, we have to have 2 years of bird data to support our offshore application. So that's data gathering for a really long period of time, preparation of all that information so that it can go to the right people so that they can understand what's happening, what our impacts are going to be. So that's one of the challenges that we have to work through, recognising that there's lots of other developers doing the same thing at the same time. So we have to work with the Marine Directorate around how we can bring these projects forward. And there's some key challenges, particularly for our sites in relation to birds and ornithology, that we have to work through as well.
I guess it's all about making good, balanced decisions that look at net zero, they look at environment, the economy, allowing the approval authorities to reach decisions that strike the best balance.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate aim of environmental impact assessment as a process is projects with better environmental outcomes, and socioeconomic factors also fall under that kind of legislative regime. So we do have to assess, what's the socioeconomic impact. Most people see impact as a negative thing, but it's also the benefits as well that can come from these projects. So we'll have lots of discussions, and I'm sure there'll be an up and coming episode for the podcast in terms of supply chain and all the opportunities that will create. There's also the job opportunities and things that will come out of this. So there's the environmental aspects are obviously critical, but there is the wider piece as well that will come through the consents.